So we have about 90 people who've registered for this meeting. Take a few minutes and introduce yourself in the chat so we know who we're talking to. We're a lively, energetic bunch. So it's always good to know from which perspectives we're approaching a discussion. So please take a moment, introduce yourself in the chat. We have people joining us from all over the state today. WEEA is a Southern California alliance, but all are welcome. And especially for what we're going to be discussing today, the water and wastewater workforce needs assessment. It's a statewide assessment. Everyone is very interested in this project and I'm assuming has registered to learn more about it. So for those who are new to WEEA, again, welcome. For those who are outside of our Southern California Alliance, welcome. You're always welcome to join us. WEEA was founded in 2018 by the California Environmental Education Foundation, or CEF, and MODOC, or the Municipal Water District of Orange County, assumed leadership in 2020. And since day one, 2018, we've been working towards the same goal. We formed this alliance because we realized that we needed everyone in the room to be able to move forward when it comes to workforce development. Industry can't continue forward without talking to education and environmental groups and ROPs and vice versa. So we meet together to talk about challenges that we're facing, solutions together, and hopefully partner together so that we can keep moving our initiatives forward. That's who WEEA is. We're funded by sponsors and by a lot of goodwill and heart from a lot of people in the room today. But I want to give a shout out to our 2021-22 WEEA sponsors: the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Molten Niguel Water District, the Water Replenishment District, California Environmental Education Foundation, or CEF, Western Municipal Water District, Big Picture Learning, and California Community Colleges. If you are interested in learning more about who WEEA is, Katie's going to drop our website in the chat. Excuse me. She's also going to drop our promotional video in the chat, and she's going to drop a sponsorship brochure. So in 2020, we changed sponsorship from calendar year to fiscal year. It just made more sense for industry. So our sponsorship year is from July to June. Obviously, we welcome sponsorships anytime, but if you're considering, maybe you're going through your budget process now and you want to consider sponsorship and that has to happen next fiscal year, that's fine. That brochure is available anytime you're ready. We have some guidelines, and they're pretty standard guidelines. In the Zoom application, please make sure that your screen name is correct and include your organization. It's always easier for us to call on you by your correct name instead of a phone number or whoever's computer you're using during the day. We do ask that all participants remain muted unless presenting or asking a question. When we keep that background noise to a minimum, we can better focus on our discussion. And then we'd like you to reserve the chat for comments. Again, we're an energetic group. We will never host this meeting as a webinar. And the reason for that is we're here as a collective to talk to each other, to find solutions together, to engage in thoughtful discussions. So please reserve the chat for comments. We encourage it. And raise your hand via the Zoom app if you'd like to ask a question. We have people monitoring the chat. And we also have people monitoring whether your hand has been raised or not. New to Zoom and good for us, closed captioning is available. So if closed captioning is something that you need, it's available for you, it's turned on. So just go ahead and utilize that if you need it. For those who don't know me, my name is Tiffany Baca. I am the Public Affairs Manager for the Municipal Water District of Orange County, or MODOC. I also lead the Water Energy Education Alliance, which is where you are today. And I am a member of the California Environmental Literacy Initiative Leadership Council. And the reason I put this last one, I do a lot of things, but the reason I put this last one is that about a year ago, I promised this group that when I was doing introductions, I wouldn't put a headshot. I would put something about my job that inspires me. And I'm one of those people who really, truly, I love my job. I love what I get to do. And why do we do this? It's a reminder for ourselves, and it's a reminder to each other that when we're talking to students about their future, we want to make sure that we're using language that is inspiring to them as well. They don't necessarily have the same context that we do. They don't necessarily have mortgages or kids to put through college. Benefits seem like something far off into the future that old people need. So what is exciting about this picture? I'm really fortunate to be able to learn a ton about water, and it's really a complicated subject. I'll never learn everything, but I learn about it. I learn about our water supply, about infrastructure, about projects, about how we're looking to the future to solve problems. And this particular photo is at a teacher's training for biomimicry. And I'm not sure how many people know what biomimicry is. If you don't know, I just learned this myself a few years ago, and it's fascinating. I love this subject. It's the process of looking to the natural world to learn how to design for the future. There are animals and plants and insects in the world that have figured things out that we're still trying to figure out. And I'm going to give you an example of that. There's a beetle in Africa that uses its biology to collect water from the atmosphere to nourish itself. So there are bumps on its skeleton and on its wings that draw moisture from the atmosphere, collecting dew and fog. It leans forward, the water drops into its mouth. It lives in one of the driest regions in the world. And what's really cool about this is we've used this technology, and we're using this technology and exploring this technology to recreate that biology and collect dew and fog to feed plants and to feed people across the world. So this is really exciting for me. If you're interested in learning more about biomimicry, I've included some links here. I've also included a link to the California Environmental Literacy Initiative website. What this group does, it's a public-private partnership who makes sure that we're providing all K through 12 California students access to impactful environment-based education, because we really feel that when students are connected to the world that they live in, and they're connected to the problems within their own community, and they're encouraged to find solutions, the learning becomes real for them, and it becomes something that they're connected to and really thrive in. There are statistics that show that students thrive when they're connected to their problems in their communities. And we really want to empower our students to solve problems. We're not here to fix all the communities. We're here to make sure that our communities are strong and thriving, and that they can solve their own problems. So I encourage you to look up any of these websites, and especially the other if you're interested. I'd like to introduce our WEEA leadership and support team. We have Bill Andrews, who is WEEA's founder and dreamed this whole thing up in 2018. And he's also a board member for the California Environmental Education Foundation, or CEF. Dr. Adrian Hightower, who most of you know in some way or another, because Adrian has been working with water education for a very long time, and he has been providing resources to all of us, and financial resources as well as materials to help us all push our education initiatives forward. So welcome to Dr. Adrian Hightower. Walter Zeisel, who is the manager of outreach and education for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Walter has been doing this a very long time. Probably if you know Adrian, you know Walter. It's important to introduce these guys to you so that if anything happens to me, one of these guys is going to hop in, but also you'll see them in the breakout rooms, and they're going to have a very strong voice in this meeting, and it's good for you to know who they are. Our support team today is Katie Vincent, Public Affairs and WEEA Assistant for MODOC, and Alana Salas Yoshi, who's our newest Public Affairs intern. We're so grateful to have her, and Katie both. So if you're running into any trouble today with navigating this meeting, or there was a question that wasn't answered, or you're looking for materials, please reach out to Katie and Alana. They're also note takers for our regional breakout groups, as are Jen Swart, Senior Public Affairs Representative of the Water Replenishment District. Jen is also a board member of SEAF, and Blanca Biller, who is the Principal Public Affairs Representative for Metropolitan. And these guys will be joining our breakout rooms and taking notes so that we capture everything that's happening in the chat. And then our WEEA regional leads. We have Bruce Noble representing Los Angeles. He is the Regional Director, Los Angeles for California Community Colleges. Also with California Community Colleges, we have Rebecca Elmore, who represents Inland Empire, the Regional Director there, Dr. John Caffrey, Regional Director for Orange County, and Kurt Holland, who is our San Diego Imperial Regional Lead, and he is an instructor and coach for Harbor Freight Fellows Initiative and Big Picture Learning. So these are the guys who will be leading our discussions in the breakout room today. The goal of WEEA and the objectives, everything that we're trying to do, no one person can do it. So all of these people come together to make everything that we do possible and to help support each other as we continue to look for solutions to our workforce development needs. Our agenda today, welcome and introductions. I think we just did that. We'll have a good news and announcement section. We think this is really important. It's very motivating for those who are listening. And it's also very good and empowering to share your good news and how you've been able to move the needle. At 9:40, we have the presentation you're all here for with the Centers of Excellence. At 10:25, we'll do a Q&A. At 10:50, we'll take a 10-minute break, and we have 11 o'clock, the facilitated regional breakout groups. We're going to see how the presentation goes. Again, we're a lively group, so if the presentation goes a little bit longer, we're still going to do those breakout groups. Things might get pushed down a little bit, and we may or not be able to do the regional shareouts. We always strive to do them, but never fear. If you're here, you're going to get the Padlet, which is where we capture all of the comments in the regional group. So if we don't get a chance to do the share outs, you still will get a copy of the Padlet that you can share with your leadership or anybody else who you think might benefit from that. And then at 12, we'll do closing information and acknowledgements. I'll let you know when the next Leadership Roundtable meeting is, so you can save the date. So today's icebreaker is, how did you get into your career in water, energy, or education? And we feel like this is an important question because we're trying to figure out why students don't know about us. And is it because we're not doing a great job? Is it because we always haven't done a great job? One of the things that we've been asking when we see data that comes back about our industry is, obviously it's very heavy on the nearing retirement age side and very light on the younger kids maybe coming out of high school or coming out of their community college program. That number is very small. Why is that? Is it because it's always been that way? Or is it because we're not doing a good job with students? Are we, are all of us joining the industry in the middle of our careers, which actually seems to be part of the case. So I'm curious, please use the chat, or if you have a longer story, how did you get into your career in water, energy, or education? Feel free to raise your hand if you like. It looks like we already have some comments in the chat. Perfect. My story is about a decade ago. I was in finance and I was laid off. And when I was laid off, everybody in finance wasn't able to get a job. It was really a strange time. And my sister-in-law actually worked at MODOC and said, hey, we've got a job here as an accountant. Do you want to apply? And of course I did. And I applied and I got an interview and I didn't get the job, but I was determined. And they said, well, we have a temporary job. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it's a senior administrative assistant. And at that time, yes, I did care about my mortgage and I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. And so that's how I got my start. Let's see, Enviro college degree, teaching English in Korea. Wow, applied for a job with a city and was selected by the water department. From Chris, I worked in the water trades, installing desalination systems, surveying irrigation systems, and later teaching water science in schools. I love this. Just a wide range. Started in the energy biz. Just applied for a role as its publications editor, learned about water and was recommended for a job at Aqua. My mother and father were both civil engineers. So we've got just a really robust group of people coming to our industry from a variety of different ways. So I think that's something that we need to consider as we're looking ahead and looking at recruiting students. And we have a lot of people in this room here who are also looking at how to provide pathways for those who are exiting the military, right? There are a couple of ways that we can solve this problem of this huge wave of retirements that we're expecting, and hopefully that will become clear to us with this study. Just making sure we don't have any hands raised. Okay, perfect.
Tiffany?
Yes, is that Nick?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to raise the hand, and I apologize.
Go ahead, Nick.
This is Nicholas Gibbs. As some of you know, I was the very first recipient of a science fair award offered by MODOC many years ago when I was in high school. I think that this is very important, and that's why I put it back in from the WEEA 9 meeting, which is a question in the chat: can and should water districts, as many as possible, seriously consider possibly hiring one or more full-time or part-time teachers and or water district staff to do water career awareness and introductory CTE training classes at local high schools? So I think all of our water districts, if a message I'd like to consistently deliver is, let's do more outreach as best as possible, because that seems to be where that one-on-one interactions between the high school kids and the water people seems to really make a difference. So it happened to me years ago, and I'm just trying to perpetuate the legacy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nick. Let's see, and then Melita.
Hello, everybody. I'm from San Bernardino Valley College, and I support the current suggestion. I do water San Bernardino and also Mount Sinai Central College, where I'm representing, to have active water technology programs. We have been very supportive of WEEA and also supporting training a new generation of water technicians. And I want to also add the fact that I agree. We have advisory committee meetings, educators in the industry, educators are who are interested in the water sector are actively inviting water agencies to these events. So I want to put it out there to support the advisory committee. So we as educators, you as an industry people, you need to tell us what we need to be doing, and we're here to serve you and better serve your needs to be able to recruit a diverse talent pool. So we're here, both for the community colleges in the Inland Empire. I see Rebecca's online, and she knows what I'm talking about because she's been very supportive of the community college goals to outreach to the agencies to support their recruitment goals.
Wonderful. Thank you, Melita. And absolutely, I mean, I really mean this sincerely. We cannot do this in silos. We need to bring in our partners and figure this stuff out together. And there are plenty of us on all sides who are willing to come to the table and partner or figure out how to do this better. So thank you for your comment, Melita. Okay, no more hands raised. The chat is still very active, so please take a moment to take a look at what your colleagues are typing in the chat. We're going to move on to our good news and announcements. Is Adrian here yet? He may not be.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Adrian, I figured I'd start with you because I almost ruined your surprise.
There you go. All right, fair enough. Hey, I'm going to share my screen real quick. You know, I'm so grateful that we've been able to continue these WEEA meetings, and I'm grateful for Tiffany and MODOC for taking us in a brand new direction that is uniquely Tiffany and MODOC. I'm really looking forward to the presentation and the work from the Center of Excellence. Personally, I guess I have some news to share that I have switched positions at Metropolitan. I'm no longer the education manager for our programs. They're still running and still available. Just talk to Blanca or Benita or the folks that you're familiar with. But these days I'm focusing primarily on workforce development. And that means looking at our workforce programs and how they apply to students and the community before folks come to Metropolitan and once they're here. I'm just going to share my screen real quick to give you a quick sense of where our kind of near-term focus is in terms of workforce development. We really want to tie these opportunities to our infrastructure investments, making sure that our community. There it is. Okay. Focus on three things for workforce development. Our water infrastructure investments. We want to make sure that our communities benefit by jobs. And when we talk about our investments, we're certainly thinking about the Regional Recycled Water Program, which has hopefully will be the largest recycled water project in the nation, focusing in Carson. We're thinking about our fallowing programs in Palos Verdes Irrigation District. We're thinking about the Bay Delta, making sure there are job opportunities associated with those investments. Certainly a focus on workforce equity, and finally the modern work landscape as we have to deal with hybrid learning, as we deal with demographic shifts and different expectations, as we have new tools such as Zoom and new modes of communicating and working and new expectations on technology. All of these are going to be impacted how we link folks who do the work to the skills they need to be successful. So looking forward to this work and working with the COE, and I'll be around. Nice to see you all. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you for that, Adrian. For those who know Adrian, this is a big deal for us. Industry is stepping up. So the big dogs are coming to the table. Metropolitan Water District of Southern California is the largest wholesale water provider in the nation, and they have assigned somebody to focus on workforce development. There is real movement here. Absolutely, lots of claps, lots of smiles. Congratulations, Adrian. And congratulations to us as well, because now we have someone absolutely who's focused on workforce development and working through WEEA, and those of us who are committed to this work, we have a stronger leg up. We're going to find these solutions together. So congratulations, Adrian, and thank you for sharing that news. Okay, let me see. Next up, still on good news and announcements, Allison Loki, I know you're there.
I'm here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, good, good. Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Adrian. I am so happy for you. You're the perfect person for that job. And that does indeed mean great things for WEEA and for Metropolitan and MODOC, all of us combined together. So today I was going to share very briefly with you the results of our last series of teacher workshops. For those of you who are not aware or maybe new to the meeting, there is a full set of curriculum hosted on Metropolitan Water District's website that are year-long classes, either semester or year-long classes. But the goal with these workshops was to get individual lessons into schools immediately. So way back last July, we did our first series. These again are sponsored by WEEA, so those of you who are WEEA members know, and then Metropolitan, and of course MODOC helps us get everything off the ground too. So we did the first set, and that was very successful, and we decided to follow it up with a second set of workshops, and they're 2-day workshops. They're 5 hours each day, and we just concluded the ones in December. They're very, very interactive. While I am on the workshops, we also have 2 what I call professional teachers who lead the majority of the lessons, and the focus is different on day 1 to day 2. So on day 1, we really focus on the traditional science classes of biology, chemistry, and physics. And we go through each of those and hand those teachers who attend a lesson or 2 that they can use immediately in their classroom. And then the second day, we focus on CTE lessons, hoping to enlighten people, hoping to be able to get teachers started, because to get a curriculum, an entire curriculum in a school takes a really long time. This last one was as successful as the first one. We thought it was going to be a little bit more of a push because it was in December, but we had over 20 teachers attend, And we are now at the point where we're getting comments back. We did do a survey and hand out a participation gift and a goodie bag, again, provided by MODOC, WEEA, and Metropolitan, which is very, very well received by the teachers. And it's not always teachers, it's also administrators as well. So we've gotten some nice feedback. People said they really enjoyed it. They learned a lot. In the first set, our comments came back that they were mostly like within certain areas. This was much more broad. Some people liked the California water story information we gave. Some people liked the math. Some people liked the science. But overall, they were very successful. We look forward to doing them again. We'll collaborate again. And really big shout out to WEEA, MODOC, and Met for allowing this to happen. Any questions from anyone? Well, I am actually on vacation in Arizona, so I'm going to put my email in the chat. And if you have any questions, please contact me directly, or of course you could contact Katie or Tiffany, but you can also contact me directly. So I'm going out sightseeing today. So everybody have a wonderful day from sunny Tucson, Arizona.
Have a great time, Allison, and thank you for all that you do. You're giving shout outs to us, and we give shout outs to you and your educators who present just an incredible program for teachers with an environment-based focus. So environmental literacy
Absolutely.
is woven in there, guys. So we're teaching teachers as well. And it's just an exceptional program. When we do the next round, we'll make sure that the WEEA group is aware of that. And if you have teachers that are interested in learning more, please send them Allison's way.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Allison. All right, next up, Kurt with Big Picture Learning, your good news or announcements.
Hi, everybody. Kurt Holland here. I know many of you and hope to work with the rest of you in some juncture, but Big Picture is a network of schools and programs. I'll throw the information in the chat later on, but our interest in the water industry is really simple. We love the high quality head of household jobs that exist here. So we're focusing a lot of energy in Southern California, specifically on this industry sector. Our good news is kind of threefold. One, we've got more money to spend than we realized even just 6 to 8 months ago when I last gave general announcements. This money goes toward high school internships. The great story Dale told last meeting was a good example of the kind of partnership work we do with East Valley and Dale. And we can fund those internships anywhere in the state, by the way. I happen to be focused on Southern California, but the program is actually national and regional. In addition, we built out some new capacity because we see that WEEA and the Met and this partnership situation is extremely fruitful. So we've got full-time staffers on the ground now in Los Angeles, Orange County, and 3 in San Diego. And it's going well. We've got kids working alongside skilled mentors, 109 of them at last count. And we're hoping to add more in partnership with this group. So that's the good news from Big Picture Learning. Kurt Holland, and I'll throw my information in the chat.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate all that you do. All right, let's see. I'm going to go back quickly to see if we have anybody with hands raised. Anybody else have good news or announcements that you'd like to share with this group? Now is the time. Danielle.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And thank you for connecting, Tiffany. My name is Danielle Blasted-Heiden with the California Municipal Utilities Association. We represent public water systems throughout the state and also publicly owned electric utilities. My good news for the day that I wanted to let everyone know about is we pulled together all the major water associations and also the energy associations in this state because we know how important of an issue workforce development is to all of our members. And so we want to find ways to be helpful and to use our respective muscle to advocate and be able to advance some of the great things you all are doing. CMUA is asking for funding in the budget dedicated to water and energy jobs. And so we just want to continue being part and start being part of the solution. So if there's ways that we can be of assistance, I'll put my email in the chat function and just look forward to being part of this process. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Stephanie.
Thank you, Tiffany. I just wanted to share with everyone, we are teaming up again this year. We, the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, teaming up again this year with the University of California, Riverside to host a Careers in the Water Industry event. We had this event last year. We had 12 water districts participate and almost 300 students registered to attend. So think of this as a career fair just for the water industry. And it invites students from UCR, California State University, San Bernardino, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Baptist, San Bernardino Valley College, and others will be invited to attend. And if you're interested in having your district represented, I'll be dropping the registration link in the chat. We'd love to have you there, and you'll be able to have a breakout room where you can interact with students individually. And we're going to have a ton of speakers, a career panel. So we're really looking forward to it and invite all the districts to join us.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Go ahead, and if you have the link, go ahead and put that in the chat, or if you have something you'd like me to send out after this meeting, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Bill.
Good morning. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for participating this morning, and especially Tiffany, for your leadership in WEEA. This is fantastic. I wanted to announce that CEEF is currently accepting applications for our Teacher Institute, which will be beginning at the end of February. And it focuses on water and energy. That's the big focus right now. We have 6 different sponsoring agencies, all of which are pretty much represented in WEEA. So we're taking applications primarily from the Los Angeles, county area, the city area, but given the sponsorships that we have, we're even accepting outside of that for teachers that teach all the way from kindergarten through grade 12. So we still have about half the spaces open in the Institute, a couple of dozen that are still available. So if you have opportunity to send out a message to your folks, so we can supply a flyer that you could send out to your teachers in that area. Thanks so much, Tiffany.
Thank you, Bill.
And I'd like to add also, this is Walter, that if there are other agencies that outside LA County or others in LA County that are interested in sponsoring the Institute, I know it's kind of late, but if there's a way to do that or make a commitment, we can definitely expand it outside LA County. But like I said, at this point, if we have space, then we'll certainly open up beyond LA City, LA County. And because of our additional sponsorships, we were able to get up to 50 teachers. In the past, it's always been at 30. So we appreciate our other sponsors. And Matt's been a big sponsor. And then we also have this year, the Replenishment District, and also Las Virgenes, and then California Department of Resources has come back. They've been a sponsor almost every year. And of course, my agency, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, where when we were live, we held all of the first 4 institutes in our building, but now we're sort of involved as one of them. Maybe we're the largest sponsor, but we're not by any means the majority anymore because of our increased funding. So it's been this institute has also been the first institute we held in 2015 was we had a grant from DWR, and it was intensively studied, and the result was also 2 published articles in the Journal of Environmental Education, and also Children in Science from NSTA. And the study basically showed that by taking workshops like this, teachers gain more confidence, but more important, almost as important, is that one of the requirements is to do a stewardship project with the students. And by doing that stewardship projects, teachers are implementing next generation science standards. So it's been a very successful program, and we're glad to participate. And we've heard a lot of accolades about it.
some have said it's maybe the best, one of the best trainings they've ever attended. So and Bill helped form or basically founded WEEA. He also founded the Institute. So I wanted to congratulate him for this two major successful efforts that he's done that have been originated also through the California Environmental Education Foundation. And I'm now the president, and I'm very excited to be and also help work with Bill in establishing CEEP as we know it today, because it was started in the 1990s as an energy and California Energy Education Forum of the electric utilities in California, and it's since evolved to this whole new organization.
Perfect. Thank you,
I don't want to
Walter.
forget Southern California Edison gas, is also a sponsor. So SoCal guys,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Wonderful. And this isn't something that's going away. So if you can't sponsor right now, because you're going through a budget process, again, same thing. And I can tell you that because MODOC is looking at adding this to our budget potentially for next year. It's a really amazing opportunity for our teachers. Let's start at the core. These are the people who will be teaching our kids and getting them inspired to join our industry. So it's a worthwhile investment, and you've done a fantastic job getting these resources together, both Bill and Walter. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Monica.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Monica. I'm with the Water Replenishment District. I just wanted to announce that we went ahead, WRD and West Basin are partnering up again to host the Careers in the Water Industry webinar and videos. We did this back in 2020, and then with COVID and everything, we thought we were going to be able to do them again last year, but we weren't. So we're going to release two more videos to add to our library of careers in the water industry. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat if anyone would like to see them. But this will be sometime in April. So I just wanted to let everyone know. I'll go ahead and send a flyer once all of that is ready and set up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Monica. John.
Thanks, Tiffany. Yeah, I just wanted to mention real quick, since you brought up biomimicry, we have a summer bridge program coming up this summer that you'll be hearing about around bionics. And bionics is very similar to biomimicry. If you Google it, you'll see Festo has these bionics kits. And what the students will be doing is building an animal, like a robot, assembling it, programming it, and then operating it. And what's really cool is that the birds fly, and the butterflies fly, and the fish swim. The elephant trunk moves just like an elephant trunk. And so they'll pick one of the three in the kit, build it, and it's kind of a lead into the CTE programs, but specifically around engineering and automation and robotics and mechatronics. So we're trying to move more dual enrollment programs into the high schools, and this is going to be something to drive the enrollments in those programs. Just keep your eyes out, because it's going to be a really cool program for our students. It should be at 6 of our high schools, feeding into our 6 automation consortia colleges. So yeah, exciting stuff.
I love it. I love it. Where were these programs when we were kids? Great job, John. Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on a program we're working on. We were working with VitaLink, which is an Orange County-based company that works with high school students and bridging the gap in different types of programs. And we are going to be coordinating a water academy that will be held here at IRWD over at our marsh. And so not a lot of details yet, unfortunately, with Omicron and things like that going around. There's been a little bit of a stall in that, but it should be going on this summer. It's going to be a week-long program where the IRWD staff will be getting involved, and we may be reaching out to some of our partners in the area in the water industry, the Saddleback College, also with Santiago College. They'll be involved in the project, but we're very excited about that project coming up.
Sounds great, Lisa. And if you need any help, feel free to reach out to us at MODOC too. We're absolutely happy to help support your efforts.
Great, thank you.
Okay, good news and announcements. Do we have anything else before we move on? Lots of good stuff. Let me double check the chat. Tomorrow's Talent celebrates developments in cybersecurity and water. We're excited to move to the LA area for the possibilities ahead. I love it, Dale. Keep doing what you do. It's working. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our panel presentation. We have the Centers of Excellence for Labor Market Research here today. I hope my email explained everything well. I also made an announcement at the last WEEA Leadership Roundtable meeting in October. We started discussions with the COE last year, early last year, and it progressed, and we are just so thrilled to announce again that the COE has agreed to take on a statewide water and wastewater workforce needs assessment project for us. I just feel like, you know, when we assumed leadership in 2020 during the middle of the start of a pandemic, I mean, boy, did we have some challenges anyways, but I feel like we keep getting close, but the thing that we're missing is that concrete data that supports what we're doing here. I know that we have received requests for letters of support from many in the room for funding. And if we have those concrete numbers to lean on, that's going to help launch your funding applications for the projects that we're trying to do. If you're in the water, wastewater industry, and you have an idea about what the silver tsunami looks like, but perhaps your leadership isn't driven or motivated to push forward and find those solutions because, oh, it's down the line. We're going to have that data come back to us that tells us what's working, what isn't, and what we need to prepare for. So I am just beyond thrilled that the COE is here today and that they've agreed to take on this workforce needs assessment. So let's introduce our expert panel today. We have Dr. Jesse Crete, Director, Orange County COE, Jacob Poor, Research Analyst, Orange County COE, Tina Ngo-Bartel, Director, San Diego Imperial COE, John Edwards, Research Analyst, San Diego Imperial COE, and Nicholas Emilio, Professional Expert, Statewide COE, to discuss the logistics of this project, how we're going to approach it, and what information we can hope to receive in the final report. So I will go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you, Tiffany. Tina's going to go ahead and share her screen so everybody can see that. As Tiffany mentioned, I am Dr. Jesse Crete. I am the director for the Orange County Center of Excellence. I'm super happy to be here representing the COE across the state, along with my colleagues from San Diego Imperial, and Jacob Poor from the Orange County Center of Excellence, as well as Nicholas Emilio. And then we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Next slide, please. So we have a few objectives for today's presentation. This is going to be pretty meaty. So at the beginning, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Generally, when COE presents, we invite you to ask questions along the way. We're going to ask you to hold your questions for the beginning of this because we're going to give you some information, but the bulk of what we're going to do with you today is actually discussion. So we want to make sure we spend plenty of time to do that. So we're going to super briefly tell you what the COE is and why we're here. Then Tina's going to jump into talking about this 2022 water wastewater report that you've heard us talk about. Then we're going to dive into our two discussion topics. So we're going to kind of get you all thinking about this work with John Edwards going over the prior report recommendations and hearing from you. And then Jacob and Nick are going to talk about the mission critical occupations, and together we're going to try to whittle that list down to those that we're going to focus on throughout the report. Then we'll follow up with some next steps. Next slide, please. So those of you that don't know, the Centers of Excellence, we are a part of the community college system for California. We are funded for the most part from the Chancellor's Office with the California Community College Chancellor's Office. And there's one Center of Excellence for each region throughout the state. And the regions are defined by the Chancellor's Office for the community colleges. The exception to that now is the North Far North, which you can kind of see in the slide is a very big area. So they actually have two Centers of Excellence. And LA and Orange County used to be a single region, and we just recently split as of January 1st. So again, you have the Orange County Center of Excellence and the San Diego Centers of Excellence, as denoted by the stars on the southern part of the map, but we're representing all the centers of excellence throughout the state and working on the state project. So we are really here to provide labor market information to all of the colleges. We do that so they can map their career technical education programs to labor market information as required by the Chancellor's Office and kind of our internal systems, but also to look at broader pictures and things such as the water wastewater work that we'll be doing with you. Next slide, Tina. And again, as you heard, you have the two centers of excellence, Orange County and San Diego, and then we're lucky to have Nick Amelia with us. He's representing on the state side. He has also worked at the Orange County Center of Excellence as well. So I will tell you, I personally think you have the best COE team working on this project, but I am pretty biased. Okay, next slide. Thank you, Kurt. So really briefly, I'm sure many of you know, it sounds like you've been around for a while, but there were 3 previous water wastewater reports that the COE was involved in. One was in 2009, that was done for the Bay Area. It looked at 77 employers. There were 43 responses to the surveys. And then another one was done in 2011. This looked at all of SoCal. That had 350 employers, 71 responses, and that focused on 7 different occupations. The 2017 report, which is the most recent, was again done for the Bay Area specifically, 77 employers again, 45 responses with about 9 occupations that were studied. So this is going to be the first time we're actually going to do a full statewide report for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Tina, who's going to walk you through what that will look like.
Thanks, Jesse. Good morning, everyone. So as Jesse mentioned, we are focusing on our 2022 water wastewater report. In the past, we call it the career pathways or occupations report. The title is to be determined, but we are hoping to run this report idea by you, including our research questions of what we're going to do today and get your feedback. So for every report, there always has to be a set of research questions. These are the research questions for our study. First, what is the labor market information for the selected water and wastewater occupations? As Jesse mentioned, we had prior reports, and those reports focus on 7 to 9 different occupations, depending on which year and which region conducted the report. This time around, statewide, we want to focus on 10 or fewer occupations for this report. And we're hoping to get your feedback and help in selecting those 10 very specific water and wastewater occupations. The second research question is, what are the current and potential employment challenges for these occupations? We want to hear from you as we go through the breakout rooms, what you feel are some of the very major employment challenges, which we'll get into a little bit. And then finally, how are these challenges mitigated internally and externally? What has been done so far, and what do you plan to do in order to address some of these employment challenges? So those are our research questions for the study. The way that the report process works looks a little something like this. First, we conduct informational interviews. So we reach out to industry experts such as yourselves to ask what the actual environment looks like in the labor market for the industry. So this is why this meeting today is so important to us, because this really helps set the foundation for the report. Then we are going to finalize the occupations for the study and create a survey. We have prior surveys that we could work upon, but also today's discussion is going to really help us refine the survey instrument for the study. Next, we'll collect survey responses and then analyze the data. And then finally, we'll produce the report and provide recommendations to the colleges and the partners. To collect survey responses, we typically send out an online web-based survey and hope that we get as many responses as possible. So as Jesse mentioned, we had about 40 to 70 responses depending on the study. This year, we're planning on doing it a little different. What we've done is started to data mine for water and wastewater organizations across the state of California. And what we did was look for keywords in various areas to find companies related to the industry. So here are just some of the keywords that we use to create a huge survey contact list for the statewide study. We are working with Tiffany, Michael, Scott, and Adrian to refine that contact list to make sure that we're capturing the right stakeholders for the study. hopefully we'll be able to get more than just 40 to 70 responses. We are hiring a phone survey contractor. They're very persistent and they're very good at getting survey responses. Typically, our web surveys get about 100 to 150 responses statewide if we just send out a web link. But our phone surveys get anywhere between 200 or 300 survey responses. So we're hoping that this strategy this year will get us more survey responses so we can provide you with a robust report. In our reports, we have labor market information that include a supply gap, meaning what is the demand and supply for the occupations that are going to be studied. We also include wages based on historical information and what's been posted for those selected occupations. We also look at job openings and what the retirement or replacement jobs look like for each of those occupations that we analyze for the report. And then finally, we look at the institutions that provide training or courses for those selected occupations. So again, we try to look at the supply side, meaning what's in the institutions that train for the occupations. And we also try to look at the demand side, looking at what the demand is for these occupations from employers across the whole state. So that's basically the general format of our report. What we really want to focus on today, for this report and others, is those mission critical occupations. Basically, what are the occupations that are essential to water and wastewater operations? And we talk about whether or not there are concerns about how many qualified applicants are needed for these positions. Tiffany mentioned earlier the silver tsunami. So discussing about what kind of opportunities or challenges that we need to address as these positions remain unfilled. All of our reports have prior recommendations. So these were the 5 recommendations from the most recent report that we completed. The first recommendation from the report was increasing awareness of industry and trades to the general public, including students, increasing readiness of job seekers for the trades, increasing the classroom training capacity for these positions, increasing entry-level jobs, and then also addressing the financial barriers to training leading to the trades. So every single time we do a report, we have these recommendations, but we never follow up and see how the recommendations have been completed or addressed since we conducted the report. So John Edwards is going to walk us through an exercise today regarding those recommendations to see where we've left off and address that part as part of the 2022 report. I'm going to stop my share right now and let John take over and provide that overview.
Tina. So for this portion, we're going to be reviewing the recommendations from the 2017 report that Tina previously displayed. So by going over these recommendations one at a time, we'll be trying to find if any industry standards have changed, have been implemented, or possibly any lessons learned due to any unforeseen obstacles. We will be spending around 2 to 3 minutes per each point to see if there's any insight that we can gain that's happened in the last 5 years. So starting with the first recommendation, increased awareness of industry and trades. Has anyone had any experience with this topic? And I know we've gone through a few of these during the good news share out or section. Just feel free to raise your hand.
Don't see any hands here, but I do know that there are some people on the call. Here we go. Michael Kushner. Michael.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm from Baywork up north. And over the course of this last 5-6 years, Baywork has really moved away from trying to send speakers out to classes as an organization. We just felt like our impact was too low. And instead, we've been doing a lot of things that you're talking about, engaging teachers. And so the format that we found is week-long teacher externships where they really dig into and spend the week at a water or wastewater utility or several and spend a good chunk of their time developing curriculum. And we did an evaluation report 2 years ago And I don't have it in front of me, but I was shocked at how many students the teachers reported that we had reached with this curriculum. It was in the tens of thousands.
Thank you very much for that, Michael. Kurt?
Yeah, no, I would speak from my own 20 years of experience leading kids outside of the formal classroom and into work site learning. But that's what we have found is absolutely the most important piece of letting their interest blossom, grow, and learn alongside tradespeople. And we have found, though, that we have to train an awful lot of teachers and administrators and school district leaders to understand why leaving the classroom is actually an ideal strategy. But I would say, in terms of teaching the school system something, we need to let them know that getting out of the classroom can be the best possible thing for a student.
Thank you, Kurt. John.
Thank you, Tiffany. You know, we've been working on awareness for several years now. And so the word's starting to get out there about the water industry and other trades. But I really think the focus needs to change to appreciation. We need to increase the appreciation of the water industry and the trades so that parents are more involved in talking to their kids about getting into these industries and becoming valued tradesmen.
Thank you for that, John. I agree with you. I also think, yes, the way that we're approaching students and the way that we're approaching teachers, making sure that, again, we're using their language and giving them something to be proud about. This is a career that you can be really proud of. And you can help us figure out what the future looks like. And it can be sustainable and it can be environmentally friendly. And I think those are some of the things we need to talk about collectively. Melita.
Just want to add to that because I've gone to the career awareness at some of the high schools and tried to increase outreach for our program. But we're moving forward to doing dual and concurrent enrollment, and we're working currently with Tomorrow's Talent to kind of advertise that as well too. But I agree too. I personally have shared my career with students as well as parents in the industries, and parents don't know about the value of a career in water. So I agree with John. Most parents are trying to steer their children to more white collar jobs, given the fact that operations and maintenance blue collar. So I agree. More advertising of the roles that we play as an effective protector of water is crucial in increasing that classroom training program. And some of the things that Metropolitan is doing with the externships, some of the things I've heard in this meeting is positive as well too. Working collectively as industry leaders to kind of gain that pool in. So I appreciate that. Just want to let you know, we as community colleges, we're available to assist in any way we can.
Thank you, Melita. Jacob.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Jacob Chiba here with Palomar College's Water Technology Program. It's great to see so many familiar faces. I just wanted to add, as far as the awareness goes, within our own water technology program, students who are already interested in the industry and pursuing it, just most recently, we kind of polled our current students, and about half of them fell into the industry or into the program from a friend, family, or relative, and that's how they're made aware of it. So I wanted to kind of just throw that out there, that's still the main way we are getting students is from a friend, from a family. Although over the past, I'd say 3 years, we have seen an increase in students hearing about it elsewhere from college counselors, from a guest speaker, and other programs like that. But for us, the bulk of students still come to us hearing about the industry from friends and family. So I still think there's a lot of room for growth in that. How do we make folks aware of this industry? That's it.
Good point, Jacob.
So we'll take John, Bruce, Scott, and then we'll jump to the next point after that. So John.
Hey, good morning. I have to apologize. I'm kind of jumping in and out of this meeting due to work, but something that I think would be an opportunity is when you look at the silver tsunami that is pending in the water industry. There's been a lot of discussion on how to train teachers to understand water. My thought is, there's a great opportunity to train the silver exiting class and train them to be teachers instead, and you kind of look at opportunities for streamlining the credentialing process, or some way to capture that institutional knowledge and experience and bring them into being teachers versus necessarily focusing on making teachers industry experts. I think also that would provide a class of folks in the school system that would represent good quality of life in regards to having already been retired and having made it pretty comfortable for themselves and now giving back. But just something I think would be worth evaluating is how to make it easier for industry retirees to get credentialed to participate in the CTE.
Wonderful point. And we're taking volunteers. Just throwing that out there.
Couple more years.
Bruce.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, John. Following the WEEA meeting down at DWP, we tried to analyze, and Orange County COE helped us on this for Southern California, not for the whole state. And we came up with some interesting numbers on that. But my recollection is if we only concentrate on 7 or 9 of the occupations, we're going to miss about 70% of the employees that are working in this industry. So I just throw that out, that there's a whole lot of other skill sets that are required. Just look at the demographic of this particular particular group of interested participants in the whole industry. So I mean, I know it's important from a technical perspective that we have, and that's where my work has been for a long time. But I just don't want to overlook the whole spectrum of opportunities that are within this particular industry that are going to take a number of skill sets. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Bruce. And we're actually going to be touching on that topic during the occupation portion of the presentation. Let's see, and then we have Scott, and then we'll move on to the entry-level job opportunities.
For Nicholas and Kurt, if you wanted to put your comments in the chat, we capture everything. So we'll make sure that you're heard.
Hello, I'm Scott. I'm the project manager for IE Works, and one of the focuses for IE Works is to reach out to disadvantaged communities. And the approach we've taken in our grant through the High Road Training Partnership is to partner with local community organizations that are embedded in the communities to do the outreach for our programs. Specifically, we're working right now on launching a pre-apprenticeship program, and we're partnering with 3 community organizations that work with a lot of justice serve folks, work with youth, work with demographics that historically are underrepresented in the trades. And we're helping, number one, to tap into those networks that already exist, the work that they've already been doing. And number 2, helping build their capacity. So playing sort of a capacity building role within IE Works to allow them to learn about these great industries and get a lot of knowledge and be able to, funnel people into our programs. So that's our approach right now that we're taking.
Thank you for that, Scott. That actually kind of answers also. I said thank you for that, Scott.
I'm technically impaired, so I don't know how to hold my raise my hand, but one other group that I think we really need to hit, and Kurt and I have talked a little bit about this, is reaching out to the counselor community at the schools. High school guidance counselors are meeting with students and parents right at a critical time when they're trying to figure out, do I want to go to college? Do I want to do this? And so having a brochure, maybe with a link to a video that's designed for these high school counselors, so that they have it as a ready resource. So a student comes in and doesn't know what career pathway they're looking at, or a parent comes in and is trying to work with their student. If our counselors at all of the high schools have materials right there that target the career opportunities, the pay opportunities in this industry, I think if we can hit the students and the parents right when they're at that decision-making mode, which is when they're sitting down talking with somebody about this, the return on that investment would be huge.
We have a lot of love in the chat for what you just said, Don. And when you presented for us last year, we took that to heart, and that has become one of WEEA's deliverables for this year. I mentioned it recently to someone, and they also recommended doing a poster with a QR code that takes them to a list of potential jobs. So yes, we have the teachers involved, but we also have the students. When the posters are hung in places, the students can just simply scan a QR code and find out more about our industry. We took that to heart. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
So does anyone have any experience increasing entry-level job opportunities for mission critical positions? So that means entry-level jobs being, let's say you need electricians, a helper electrician, kind of the initial job placements where they have to spend a few years before they actually get their career going.
Stephanie.
Yes, thank you. So the Inland Empire Utilities Agency created an internship trades program as well as a volunteer trades program with the goal to get our participants certified. So we're primarily wastewater, and the hardest part about getting your wastewater certification is finding an agency that will help you get the 1,800 hours needed to get fully certified. So we developed this internship trades program, volunteer program, to help participants earn those hours and get fully certified. So through our program, they can get their certifications through the State Water Resources Control Board, California Water Environment Association, the International Society of Automation, and that puts them there certified, ready to start in the industry. And in fact, some are able to earn enough certification where they will exit our program and won't even be looking for an entry-level job because their certifications will be higher than that. So that's just something that we created. I definitely encourage more agencies to do it. I don't know of very many right now that are, but if you have the capacity to create a program, I'd love to share our program so that you can help supply the industry with certified workers.
Thank you very much for that, Stephanie. And Walter, yes.
Hi, I'm with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, we're a utility, and 95% of our employees are both on the water and the power sides are in joint, like I'm in the joint system, are represented by the IBW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 18. And Local 18 has established what they call a pre-craft electrical trainee program. So what it is that a young person 18 or older can sign up without just to have the driver's license, 18-year-old, and there's a long waiting list, but they're put on and they're not considered, like we're civil service, so they're not considered civil service, but they get several years experience and training with the opportunity to take civil service exams and to help get in the system, both at LADWP and the other city departments. But like I said, there's a variety of roles and things that they can participate. So they put on different projects. Like we've done. We've had a program where they install. They check the homes for conservation, attic insulation, stuff like that. And so, like I know in my home, we had 4 people that helped install the insulation and put in some of the other conservation measures in the home, caulking and stuff like that. And there were a 4-member crew, and 2 of them were this pre-craft electrical helper program. So that's one big one that LADP and our union have established as a way of getting kids into our agency and Los Angeles City government.
Good stuff, Walter. Bruce.
You know, as far as the recommendations, I would just add work-based learning as one of the components to the entry-level opportunities. That would be helpful for meeting all of the awareness and really understanding what the job was before they spend 2 years over here and decide they don't like it.
Thanks,
Then we'll
Bruce.
take Robert and Gretchen, and we'll move on to the next section. But great content so far. Thank you.
Robert.
Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert Scott, president of Baywork and also Valley Water technical training. One of the things that Baywork is doing and also Valley Water has done is start to hire positions, actually hire at the entry level. What we found is that a lot of these positions are on the books they exist at agencies, but many agencies don't hire there. They may bring in temps, they may bring interns at the entry level, but don't make the hire there because the mindset is if we can get journey level in, then we get journey level in, it benefits the organization. So one of the things that we've been started doing at Valley Water is, and many of our managers are hiring at the entry level. Again, these are positions that are on the books, but just don't get hired at. That's starting to happen. And we built in a way of matriculating them up into journey level within. Now that takes a little more work, a little more effort, but I think that's something that needs to be done. And Baywork has been talking about ways that we can get agencies to do more of hiring at these positions that they already have listed as positions, but haven't hired there in many years. So we need to start hiring in these positions and then being able to move people forward.
Are those jobs specifically in Skillcraft, or is it all throughout your agency?
Well, I would say throughout. For instance, it's more so in the trades and in either the operations or electricians or mechanics or something, where you want to get the journey level in, right? But then there's these other positions where you are considered journey levels, like it may even be a public information position where they consider a journey level, but then there's also the ones where they are training them. And so these positions have been ignored for many years, I think, in the industry. And we need to start hiring there so that we can allow people to come in.
You guys are Santa Clara County, right? San Jose,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
And sometimes, and I can speak from experience, it's just a foot in the door that you need. And then a temporary position becomes something that's full-time and geared stronger towards what you were trained to do. Thank you, Robert. And last one, Gretchen.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the program I wanted to highlight. We have San Diego County Water Authority facilitates a regional internship program with our member agencies. And those are for exactly entry-level positions for students that are enrolled in water and wastewater courses in community college. And so we've had great success. The program's been running over 10 years. And we have about, on average, 70% of the interns are hired on full-time before they even finish the one-year program. So it's a great opportunity to kind of engage the region as well as all of our member agencies. They can have an experience with a really large agency like the City of San Diego, or go to a really small agency, and the interns have that opportunity to kind of get that breadth of exposure.
That's great. Thank you, Gretchen. I have to make an important point. We just had our newest intern. Go ahead and make a comment in the chat. You just need one person to say yes. And I think that's important for us to remember. John, do you have time for just one more, Adrian?
Yeah, we can do one more, and then we'll close off.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Tiffany. I just wanted to reiterate Robert's point. He made a really important one about moving away from hiring entry-level positions. And there's another systemic issue associated with that, especially with larger agencies. As larger agencies move away from hiring entry-level positions, larger agencies with the resources to do a broad outreach campaign that can reach underserved communities effectively outsource that outreach to smaller agencies, which rely more heavily on established networks and have fewer resources to do that level of outreach. So it is incumbent, particularly on larger agencies, to look again at hiring entry-level positions and leveraging the resources to do these broad outreach campaigns. Robert, it's a really important point. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Nirmala, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to move on, but if you can put your comment in the chat, that would be really helpful, and we'll make sure that you're heard.
A lot of excellent feedback. Never a problem, and we can't go through all the recommendations. Just means there's a lot of information out there for us to capture, but we'll have a chance to kind of capture more of these during the regional breakouts. These last two, but again, regional breakouts, we'll discuss these a little bit further, but that's going to be the end of my section. So Jacob and Nick can take it away.
Thank you, John. I'm going to share my screen and put my presentation up, and then Nick is going to be helping with the chat as things come in. Tiffany's also been doing a great job with that, so thank you, Tiffany. And we're going to do something somewhat similar to what we were just doing, but we're going to talk instead about the occupations. Bruce brought up the point that looking at 7 to 9 seems like he understands why, because it's very focused, but it could not be capturing a lot of employment. So one thing we want to do is kind of do a calibration activity on the occupations. And where this started was we looked at the occupations that were included in the previous Baywork report, shared that with the initial project advisory group, and kind of did some recalibrating at that point. And now this is, again, the recalibrating that we're talking about doing here. So one thing I want to talk about before we get into actually talking about the occupations is this discussion of job titles versus occupations that some of you, especially in the community college system, have probably heard one of your COEs talk about before. But earlier today, Tiffany had asked folks to put in the chat, you know, what agency they're from, their job title, or what they do. So job titles are kind of what you use to identify yourself within your organization. So I am a research analyst. Someone might be a water treatment operator, and so on and so forth. Those are different from the occupations that we're going to be looking at, which are defined by the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics using their standard occupational code system. So we'll see an example of this in a second so that you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about, but that'll be really important to keep in mind as we go through this discussion. So this table here kind of outlines some of the differences between them. So usually job titles, you classify workers for recruitment, compensation, other organizational purposes, whereas occupations, that's the federal government classifying workers into categories so that they can collect, calculate, or disseminate data so that you know exactly how many folks are employed in any given occupation in California versus Texas, or in Orange County versus LA County, and so on and so forth. What this can result in is that different organizations, different agencies can have a ton of different job titles for folks who are doing the same thing. And the way that the Bureau of Labor Statistics tries to bridge that gap is they take all that information and slide that under the broad occupation where they're able to capture all these different job duties that might be called something slightly different at numerous organizations. So that probably sounds a little abstract right now. So let's put an example up on the slide here. So what you're seeing is that you have all these different sort of water treatment, water distribution, wastewater treatment job titles. But once that all gets rolled up into the occupations, the way that the federal government defines it, it all goes into this big circle here called water and wastewater treatment plant and system operators. So it's like an umbrella, basically. This is the top of the umbrella, and all the little branches go down under it are these other water treatment operators. Go ahead and put in the chat if that doesn't make sense, and I can try to do another example to maybe pull it to something that's not in the trades and not in water and wastewater specifically. If you're thinking of accounting clerks, they can be called something different at a bunch of different organizations. Accounting clerk, accounting assistant, so on and so forth. They'll all roll up into one occupation as a whole so that we can collect and disseminate the data and make it comparable across multiple organizations. So bringing it back to the discussion we want to have today, we've put this up a couple of times, and it's really important to keep in mind as we're looking at these occupations, partially to the point that Bruce brought up, because we're trying to really narrow this down to the mission critical ones. So I think everyone on this call is a really good example of folks who work in the water, wastewater industries, but aren't necessarily on the ground doing the machine work, doing the water treatment operation. We know that you're all important to the functions of the position, but we're really looking at in the trades here and making sure that these occupations are those for which work is essential to reliable water and wastewater operations, and that there are concerns about whether sufficient numbers of qualified candidates would be available to fill current and future vacancies. So try to keep that in mind, and we can come back to this if you need a refresher. So the first set of occupations here, I know it's a lot of information. So what we're going to do here now is I'll put this stuff on the screen to give everyone a little bit of an opportunity to look at it. But what you have here is the occupation name as the federal government defines it, as I was just talking about, a description of that, and that's how they basically determine what falls under that occupation. And then on the right here, we have the statewide demand. So this is the number of annual job openings that are projected to be over the next 5 years for these occupations. This is across all industries. This is just not necessarily within the water industry, but to give you an idea of the scope and the size of the number of job openings for these occupations. That might look different within your industries because machinists can be employed across the whole variety of manufacturing, utilities, and other sorts of industries. The nice thing about the set of occupations on this list is, of course, if you have feedback, feel free to let us know. I'll pause here in a second and open it up. But we presented this group to the project advisory group, and right off the bat, everyone was like, yes, we absolutely need to include these ones. Machinists need to be in there, operating engineers and other construction equipment operators. And then, of course, water and wastewater treatment plant and system operators need to be in there. So these were the occupations where right off the bat, we were like, yeah, these need to be included. They've been included in the previous reports as well. And we define them as the operational group of categories, kind of the most base function types of occupations that need to be included. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. I'll pause for a second and get any feedback by raising your hand or anything that's going on in the chat. I'll check that out as well. So I see that Edward said that machinists are also needed in the water and wastewater industry, including them expands the list of job opportunities for our students. Perfect. So it sounds like we're on the right track there, and we're getting into agreement. We have some agreement here.
Yeah, I have a quick comment, and that is that I've been involved with all of the scans that have been gone through all the way back to the 2009 one. And one problem that we have is because there's only the one standard occupational category, kind of that lump sum, it really, we always come back with numbers that are way, way under what the average says. The most recent scan in San Diego County came out and said that there were something like 2,700 jobs in San Diego County in the waterworks field. And we know that the city of San Diego has over 1,700 positions. So the numbers tend to be way understated, especially on the wastewater collection side, because it's not a state required certification. So a lot of those people fall through the cracks. But there are so many job titles that don't fit, like in water distribution. You've got welders, heavy equipment operators, utility workers, pipe fitters. I mean, there's so many different job functions that don't fit into this. So you have mechanics, machinists, those kinds of classifications, the whole engineering field. We've got a ton of engineers in this industry. But when you say water plant operator, wastewater plant operator, that's probably less than 7 or 8% of the people who are actually in the field. So it's a real problem that we don't have good LMI for this industry and never have had.
So I hear what you're saying, Don, and I think we'll be able to, we heard something similar from the project advisory group initially, of that the occupations that had been there in the past weren't capturing a lot of the components you were talking about, the maintenance, the installation, those sorts of things. So we've actually added some in, and we'll get a look at those at the end, but we'll keep that in mind as we go throughout this process. So thank you for that feedback. Nicholas, I think you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I want to kind of echo what Don Jones just mentioned, and mention that the careers and the jobs are evolving. They're not static, and in the industry, especially in this industry, it's constantly changing. So you can have an occupation listed as a name, but then the duties and the training changes. So you may want to have, instead of the occupation, or also consider having the industry. So you have the industry that, the water, wastewater industry, and then have that as a group, because there's so many different jobs and careers that constantly changing and evolving that it's not static. So.
Yeah, I hear you on that. We're hearing that all the time, that new technology, just different job requirements are constantly changing what these jobs look like. So something that we can think about as we're going through this is also the skills that would be attached to any of these given jobs, or just more broadly, what skills would be needed and can cut across a wide variety of different occupations here. I know John from Orange County mentioned earlier automation, and we had done a report on that, and you can see how those automation skills don't neatly fall into any of these occupations, but how they're utilized within water or within manufacturing in other ways. So on that note, I don't know if John or Kurt's hand was up first. I know who wants to go first.
It was Kurt.
Okay, Kurt, thank you.
I just want to make sure that we insert again the need for an environmental lens. My initial work in the water industry was as sort of an environmental water technician collector. And I didn't have a college degree at that point, but we have an array of engineering challenges facing us, and some of those could be hard solutions, some of them could be nature-based, but having recognition that the environmental field is powerfully intersecting with this industry is something I'd like to make sure we recognize.
Okay, good feedback. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind as we go through this as well. And then John, and then we'll go to Melita, and then we'll move on to the next set of occupations.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the white elephant in the room. It's, you guys have such a hard job when it comes to taking these SOC codes and breaking them out and showing the data that you're able to compile, which is excellent. Although, garbage in, garbage out kind of a thing. If industry isn't following some kind of consistent guideline on how they designate these jobs, then the data is not going to be correct. And I only say that because I'm looking at the water wastewater treatment plant system operators. For a statewide number, that seems incredibly low to me. And I'd like to hear from everyone else, because that's one of the jobs that's cannibalized throughout the industry. So yeah, I'd like to hear more about that number.
Yeah, so that is a statewide number. These are based on a variety of different data sources, including the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The tool that we use is called EMSI, and they take that data. And something I should point out is that, to the best of the Bureau of Labor Statistics ability, they do try to take into account turnover and retirements. But if any sort of occupation is approaching kind of a retirement cliff, that may not be captured as well in this data as some other things, because there are assumptions built into these projections as well. So that's something we can dig a little deeper into. But this does account for any new jobs that are created, as well as any turnover that's happening within the industry too.
I guess my point was just, I wonder how many operating engineers and construction equipment operators or machinists are maybe actually other operators, because of the SOC code was picked just because it was close, but not exact or whatever.
Yeah, very good point. And something we plan on doing is providing examples for you all in this survey, so that we can try to get as much consistency as possible in our results. At least we can't control what the federal government does, of course, when they collect this data, but we can do what we can to mitigate mitigate that kind of issue and incorporate some of the feedback we got here. All right, I think there was one more question maybe from Melita, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I lowered my hand, but I just wanted to emphasize geographical information systems as well too. I don't know how that would span across the codes as well too, because that is critical with respect to branching into maintenance and instrumentation and computerized maintenance management systems as well too. So I just want to throw that out there as a part of the occupation code that need to be examined as well too.
Perfect.
Jacob,
Thank
we
you
had a
for
good
that.
question in the chat. Can you go ahead and define demand for everybody so that everybody's clear? I think are these the 2020 numbers?
Yes. So thank you for bringing that up, Nick, and for Michael for asking that. This is not the total of number of jobs. So this is not the total number of folks who are employed in the industry. This is just how many jobs are projected to be open due to turnover or because someone creates a new job. So let's say, just for sake of ease, you have 5 water and wastewater treatment plant system operators in your organization. It's a really small number, but we're just using it for illustrative purposes. And you say, we really need one more person on our team because just the demand for our services has gone up in such a way that we need one more person. That's a new job. That's something that wasn't existed before. And that goes into the statewide demand. But let's say you have that 5 set of people and one of them just decides to leave the water and wastewater industry and go work in some other occupation. That's considered turnover. And that also gets built into the statewide demands here. So it's accounting for both of those factors of new jobs being created as well as folks leaving their current job. And now the employer has to backfill that position. And as Nick said in the comments, these are the annual job openings for years 2020 to 2025. So over the full period, you would multiply this by 5 and get how many jobs you expect to be open over a 5-year period. This is just looking at it on an annual basis. So we expect in each year there to be about 1,015 or so job openings for water and wastewater treatment plant and system operators. But this is independent of how many folks are employed in that already. So very good questions on those.
Yeah, one quick comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one quick comment. In 2018, we surveyed here in San Diego County as part of our workforce development task force, which had just been formed. We surveyed all of the industries, all of the employers here in San Diego County, over 50 employers. We found out that we had 4,300 or so incumbents, and we're looking at a 9% fill and replacement rate. So extrapolated out to the state of California, that's about 45,000 jobs in this industry. You'll never see any LMI that looks like that, but that's what the real LMI is, because we talk to all of our member agencies because we know who we are. And that's just the people in the industry itself. The other piece that's a hidden to this is how many contractors do we have that do specifically water and wastewater repair and installation jobs? How many consulting engineering firms do we have that work almost exclusively in the water and wastewater field in design and construction of new treatment plants and facilities, especially with the infrastructure money that's coming in now. So we are really, when we're looking at it, we're only looking at one portion of it. We aren't also looking at the regulatory people from the state health department, the county health department, and the industrial waste inspectors and that kind of stuff. So we are always looking, all of the numbers that I've ever seen are probably representing maybe a third to a fourth of the total impact employment-wise this industry has.
Thanks for that feedback, John. And one of the things about this report that we're hoping to do is really try to get that statewide lens and then compare that to what the LMI is showing here, because we haven't done that in the past. So I think we'll have a lot more, hopefully, insight from this if we're able to get a lot more engagement from industry throughout the state.
Yeah,
so
I think that really is, I'm sorry, Jacob, I think that really is the point of this meeting. And then this morning, Dawn, because you have a lot of institutional knowledge, you're very familiar with what many of our challenges are, including what the challenges might be with this survey. So I did ask that you be added to the primary advisory group, because I think that making sure that all of these questions, we all feel that we're being heard and these questions are being addressed And the COE team is really excited to have you on board to make sure that we focus on those questions and those challenges and issues together as a statewide collaborative.
Thank you, Tiffany. So let's go to the next set of occupations, and then we have one more set after this. So we took these occupations that we had and then broke it out to this electrical group. And I think the first one, electricians, is very straightforward, and the group did agree pretty quickly that that should be included in this as well. The other one here is electrical, a little bit of a name, and electronic engineering technologists and technicians. So before jumping into it, I do want to point out that these are not engineers. These are engineering technicians. So usually these folks work under the direction of engineers rather than being labeled engineers themselves. Since they are electrical in nature, they may work on different circuits, different control systems, or automated systems as well too. And one notable difference between the electricians and this other technologists and technicians role is that electricians may require completion of electrician apprenticeship program, whereas these technicians and technologists wouldn't require that much experience. So it wouldn't necessarily be an entry-level role. Folks would still need some experience, but wouldn't necessarily need to complete an apprenticeship in order to move into these positions. So what do you think of these two occupations here? Really the second one, because electricians, I think we've talked about several times today, is definitely something that should be included.
Looks like Stephanie has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a tip. When you're looking at these occupations and thinking about your own job titles at your organization, you likely have already done some of this work if you've responded to EDD's semi-annual occupational employment and wage statistics survey. We actually, we respond to that every other year, and we started using these occupations for our career outreach because it's easier for educational institutions to understand electricians versus me, referring to our job title, which is not as easily understood. So if you're concerned about, man, where am I going to begin to start lumping all these job titles that I have into these different occupations that Jacob is sharing, your HR department likely has already done the work for you if they're responding to that semi-annual survey.
That's an excellent point, is that this work is being done. So all of this data is reported to the Employment Development Department by institutions themselves, by employers themselves. So that could be a good way to connect with HR departments to see how that is being reported or not being reported as well too. Walter. Oh, Walter, I think you're muted.
You hear me now? I just had a question. So what I noticed here on these two electricians, electrical, electronic engineering technicians, one thing that comes to mind is that several of the utilities up and down the state that are water utilities or that are city utilities are joined. So basically, we're in Los Angeles, but Anaheim and Riverside and Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank are dual utilities, water and electricity. And so my point is that these kind of positions, electricians, I think, would be on both sides of the house. And the hiring process, at least within like the city government, is like this, it's a civil service title. And so it would cross systems and also other departments. So my point is that at least for these skill craft kind positions, I could see the utilities that are dual, that have both water and electricity. I think some of this information would apply. I just wanted to point that out. So some agencies like metropolitan, some water agencies are strictly water, but then a lot of the city ones have both.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And to try to get around that issue, one of the things that we plan on asking in the survey is thinking about only your water unit and your wastewater unit, so that we try to separate it out. As you said, LADWP is a great example and a huge example of that. but we'll want to see how many of these folks are employed just in your water unit or just in your water department, however you define that as well too, because you probably have different headcounts for those occupations, whether they're in water versus another unit or department
Well,
in
the
your
other thing
large
too is that
organization.
in our agency, the power system, the energy side is much larger than the energy. I mean, the water side is important, but of course it's central, but the power would have more, is larger, has more employees.
Yeah, yeah. Robert?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I think the term instrumentation should be in here somewhere. And also that the electrical field is broad. I mean, there's different layers to it. And also you mentioned that the second position is a lower level when not really. I mean, some components of it is, and that's why I think maybe the question, the top, it needs to be a little bit more defined and maybe create a third definition. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but my point is instrumentation is not considered there, and instrumentation would be an equal level to the electrical position. And then you have your high voltage electricians and then the lower voltage or mid voltage electricians that maybe you want to distinguish a little bit, but that's just an idea.
Yeah, and
thank you
for Southern California, SCADA is the toughest recruitment that we have right now. So that really kind of fits into this instrumentation piece. And the problem for that is, for instance, like right now, we're trying to very actively recruit transitioning military personnel who have skill with instrumentation and avionics and electronics and those components, but they don't use the term SCADA. SCADA is pretty well utilized in the water and wastewater field, but not in the military side. So there's the job translator piece that we have, because there it's distributed control systems is what they use. Semantics is going to be real critical to us in this study.
Yeah, excellent point, both Robert and Don. And some instrumentation can fall into this electrical second occupation here. And when I use the word lower, I was thinking more on experience requirements. I didn't mean to suggest that they were actually lower in skill level or anything like that, just when it comes to experience requirements. Since we're talking about instrumentation, we'll get to another occupation that might include that quite a bit, but I want to move on to the maintenance group of occupations, which has been not included as much in the previous reports, and that's what we heard from the initial advisory group. Go ahead and take a look at the list here. This one we kind of want to try to maybe narrow down in some way, because the first one is general maintenance and repair workers. So these are folks who are usually using skills of 2 or more maintenance or craft occupations to keep things running. They do pipe fitting, so someone mentioned that earlier, HVAC maintenance, welding, machining, carpentry. These are kind of catch-all maintenance and repair folks that can work on a whole variety of different machinery or help in different operations. The other one below it is kind of a catch-all for anything that's not captured above it. So what we want to know here is a lot of the stuff that you are talking about and that we're hearing from you captured by this general maintenance and repair workers, or do we need to create an all other category for kind of miscellaneous, which would make it harder to define ultimately. So keep that in mind. Any thoughts here? Robert, you're number one.
Yes.
And then Bruce after that.
One of the distinguishing factors, I think, is when we talk about maintenance, we have maintenance at our plants. We have also maintenance with, for instance, in water with our watersheds. And those maintenance departments it's a different level of maintenance. So somehow maybe in the top one, as a descriptor, you can include things relative to maintenance, relative to watershed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good feedback. Thank you for that distinction. Bruce?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I'm on. Okay, real quick. The mission of the community colleges primarily and CTE across the state are focused on these middle skills jobs. These are middle skills jobs that do not require a baccalaureate. And I suspect that that's where the study will also try and focus on, as opposed to degree type occupations like scientists, biologists, administrators, those kind of things. I want to make note of that. From the occupation crosswalk to the description and top codes, which are the code words that community college uses for programs, this pretty much covers most of them. There's still the instruments piece is a missing one, which probably should be in the survey, but there aren't a lot of there are not a lot of programs across the particularly across our region that have strong or large programs. The other really interesting thing on our survey is that there are 4 water programs, licensing or registration programs in Los Angeles, and they're not all under waterworks. One is under biology, one is under public works, one is in the contract ed space, and then 2 of them, so there are 5, 2 of them are actually called waterworks, one at LA Tread Tech and one over at Rancho. So a lot of the times when the original surveys come out, whatever database they're using may not capture all the programs or all the deals. I could tell you that later, Jacob. So anyway, there's some other things.
We can connect on that later, Bruce, and that's something that we'll take a look at, and between you and Don, I'm sure we'll be able to capture a lot of those that are maybe put in different places. Kurt, and then we'll move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this environmental connection again, because this is where we see and are supporting a significant number of laborers, as they self-describe, but their official job titles is often to Robert's point, watershed restoration technician, watershed maintenance. They do that kind of stuff in percolation grounds. They do that in river riparian zone restoration projects, things like that. I think we'd be missing a big chunk of humans and a really important connection if we didn't actually have the word environmental in here somewhere.
Okay, thank you for that feedback, and we'll look into that as well. So from what it sounds like this top one does capture a lot of the types of positions that you're working with, but we can maybe look a little deeper into it to make sure that there is some definition in there about environmental, watershed, and those sorts of things. Okay, this last one, I think we'll get into a little bit of the instrumentation that folks have been talking about with this second occupation, with calibration and things like that. The first one here is industrial machinery mechanics, and the second one is calibration technologists and technicians, and then engineering technologists and technicians, except drafters, all other. Bit of a technical name there, but the calibration part and the calibration technicians do typically have more of a focus on instrumentation equipment. They could also calibrate, test, assess efficiency of equipment, and could also work with human machine interfaces, PLCs, things of that nature. So that's the second occupation there. And the one at the top here is industrial machinery mechanics, which you can read the description of. That one's pretty straightforward. So again, thinking back to the definition of mission critical and the jobs within your organization, what's your feedback on these occupations? Robert, you're always fast on it today.
All right. One thing comes to mind, and I think it's overlooked, and it's also a competing place I found with the water industry, is lab techs. And so lab tech positions, it involves the chemistry, but also I think highlighting that is critical because in the water industry, we compete with the pharmaceutical companies in this and with positions like this. So I think we want to somehow get the lab tech title in here some kind of way. And so people can know that these kind of positions exist in the water world as well.
Yeah, and related to that, if I might just sort of butt in, is that, and I had an experience with a speaking program with a water quality lab, and there was a technician, a water quality technician. I think some of what their job is also collecting samples, water samples. We do like 150,000 tests on our water system every year. So the lab tech, they're in the lab, but sometimes they're also, I don't know what you call it, but water quality technician or something, but they are, some of them are the ones that are going out to collect the samples in the reservoirs and this kind of thing. So I don't know how many positions there are with that, but I do know that that's sort of related to lab tech. It's maybe, but it sort of relates to water quality and testing the quality of the water and that kind of stuff.
And I think that's where too, that those come in as the mid-skills jobs, but then they lead to the chemists and biologists and marine biologists and microbiologists and everything else, which is a huge part of our industry. The city of San Diego has their own joint lab building that has probably 100 people that work just in the lab analysis pieces. So out of a workforce of 1,700, probably 100 of those are scientists who are doing environmental monitoring. And I think Kurt hit the nail on the head, and that is that if we want to reach out to young people and recruit them to this industry, there are a lot of people who really are into wanting to protect the environment. They're concerned with climate change and stuff. And so if we want to attract people to this industry, we need to make sure that they understand that we are custodians of the environment. What we do is environmental protection. And so that's a huge job market for us, and that's a good recruiting tool for us.
And
Yeah,
large grant makers love the connection, by the way.
Bruce, you have your hand up, and Walter, I think you might have said something, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, real quick. Recently, we've done some placement for some apprentices, not apprentices, but interns at a couple of, or several, but sanitation, wastewater and water delivery systems. And in both cases, or in both cases that come to mind most recently, and Monica was part of this, is that the candidates who were successful also had a small background in biology, understanding biology and sample taking. So the technicians who are actually working in the plant, having that understanding was a real leverage point up in the hiring deal. So I only bring that up for the educators to make sure that in the curriculum or in the pathway, there is some science involved in it, and it's not all technical, not all technical.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the point, not so much statistics or related to the specific occupations, but when it comes to water as well as energy, because I do both, but in the water industry is also working to combat climate change. MWD, LEDP, a lot of the other water agencies are strongly, developing programs to increase what we call local supply sources, which is recycling, conservation, stormwater capture, groundwater, increasing groundwater, in some cases desalination. The idea being that with the climate change, the aqueducts are becoming, the water from aqueducts is becoming less available. And so we're trying to make our systems more efficient by using what we have. And I look at that as a major way for us, methodology to combat and adjust to climate change. And on the energy side, we're all moving, state mandate requires it also, but we're all moving to increase our getting to 100% renewable statewide by 100% by 2045. And in the LA City's case, we're looking at even maybe 2035. So both sides of our house and utility business are addressing climate change, which for kids, and dealing with the environment is a huge attractor to this industry, once they know about it.
All right, so Kurt, just real quick, and then I'm going to address one question in the chat, and then we'll move on and do the next steps and wrap up our presentation.
It's been covered. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. So Michael had asked in the chat, can we combine data from 2 different government defined occupations in order to align with one water sector category, such as instrumentation and electronic maintenance? This kind of grouping that we did here today was kind of a first look at that. So we could end up, based on the survey results, seeing where there's commonalities, seeing where there's patterns, and bring them together and do some thematic groupings in that way. So that will maybe just depend on what the data says. But for this activity, we were just trying to identify if these occupations are aligned with what's out there in your industry and meet that definition of mission critical occupations, which it sounds like most of them do. We may be not missing something, but we may have to look a little further into water quality, into environmental, sort of those things. But I think we have a good list here as we're going through this. So we've ran over on time quite a bit, but thank you all for giving your feedback and giving your time today as we're going through all of this. And we want to just end on some next steps. We're going to be reviewing the feedback that we got from you here today within the next week or so. And then the project advisory group, which is led by Tiffany, is going to send us follow-up info from everything that's been recorded here today. We're going to take that feedback, finalize the occupation list, the survey questions, and keep working on the report outline so that we can hopefully get that done within the next month, give or take. And then we'll start commencing the industry survey and conducting the research projects as we go further through this. So this was great feedback that we got from you all here today. I know that it will keep carrying over into the breakout group. So we'll keep hearing what your concerns are and what's going on. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of everyone who presented today and on behalf of the COEs throughout the state.
Thank you. Thank
and
you
Tiffany,
to the
I'll
COE.
turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you to the COE, your entire team. Jacob, you guys did an amazing job. I think there's still a lot of questions, and that's what we're going to talk about again in our breakout room. So there's still opportunity. We're going to take a quick break. Can I, Jacob, call on Nirmala? She has been trying to raise her hand. So can we ask this one question before we go to break? Nirmala, go ahead.
Of course, yes.
Okay, this is more of an offer. So I'm with the Department of Water Resources, and I saw that you were going to do a survey. So I was going to say we have several listservs where we can reach water systems. So when you have that together, send it to me and I'll see which listservs we can use to send that information out so that people answer your survey. Also, if there's any diversity element to the survey, let me know. So for example, I have a webinar next month, and during our diversity talk, I can mention at the end that to the water suppliers, what can you do? Well, you can make sure that someone in your agency answers the survey. So there's opportunities like that to send me a blurb anytime, in the coming months, and I can get that to the correct person at DWR.
I think that's a wonderful
Thank you,
offer.
Nirmala.
And just on that note, we'll use WEEA as well as Baywork and IE Works and all of the regional collaboratives to make sure that we're getting the word out. So same thing from all of us. You're going to hear from all of us, and we're going to ask that you share information as the COE asks it of us. The more people that we have that are relevant to the data that we're trying to retrieve, that care about it, that can answer those questions, the more responses that we need. And if that means that we have to do a little pushing on our end, let's get those numbers up from the COE. Let's make sure that this project really matters and that we're getting the information that we need to move forward. That's really what this whole thing is all about. And again, we don't work in silos, so let's do this thing together. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break. I knew we were going to run over. We are an energetic group. Which is totally fine. I do have a quick call out. I noticed that our Inland Empire regional lead isn't in the house. So can I ask Scott to maybe lead that breakout room when we come back? Scott, are you still with us?
Yes, sure.
Okay, do you mind doing that? We have a note taker for you.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. And then Michael, do you mind, or Robert, do you mind leading the regional breakout room discussion for Baywork or for Northern California?
Sure, me or Michael, one of us will do it.
Okay, perfect. And we have a note taker for that room too. Okay, so 10 minutes, get up, stretch, get some water, do what you have to do, and we'll see you back here at 11:10. Okay, so everyone's back from our 10-minute break. I hope you had a chance to stretch and get ready for this next part. I did know that we were going to run over. We always do, which is totally fine, but that just gives us more time in our breakout room. So I think we'll come back at 10 to 12, just to give everybody an opportunity to have any last comments, and then me to wrap up with the next leadership roundtable and give a shout out to our sponsors. Just kind of remember that all of this is being captured today. Everything you say is being captured, and we're going to make sure the COE has it, and we're going to make sure our primary advisory has that information as well. So everybody has a voice. We just wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah, and I have a hard deadline to leave at noon, so.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Tiffany?
Nick, yes.
Yeah, I just have an important thing for the group, and I just put it in the chat. Important suggestion idea for we as leadership and participants, and that is to find a way to utilize the talents and skills of water industry retirees. For example, retirees can be guest speakers at schools, lead field trips, do outreach to high schools, be mentors to students, help guide them with job shadowing, etc. Can there possibly be a list for the retirees? So when retirees leave, then the water districts ask them, would you like to be on a list to be of help that, you know, down the road? So I'm throwing it out there, and if the leadership can please consider this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nick. It's a great suggestion.
Tiffany?
Yes.
Hi, this is Blanca. And for the breakout room for me, am I asking the questions too, or just taking notes?
You're just taking notes.
Okay, great.
Okay, perfect. So these are our prompts today. What are the most critical pieces of information you need from this project to help support your workforce development efforts? Is there something that we're missing? We're talking an awful lot about, yes, the retirements, but is there any additional information? We know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a big priority, and it's something that we've been talking about a lot. That information is going to be included, but we want to make sure that you tell us what critical pieces of information you need to help you get funding, to help you develop career pathways, to help you get support from your leadership. We feel that's very important. There's a lot of people in this room today. They aren't necessarily the tippity top of the iceberg who can pull the trigger and make sure that we're building these career pathways. We want to make sure we're asking the right questions. The second one, how do you plan to use the data when the project is complete? And I've been noodling this a bit, and I find that when we take information and we provide it to people in a report form, you know, you can send it to somebody else and the report may be long, and we still plan on doing that. But I've been thinking about maybe putting together a PowerPoint presentation that each of you and anybody else who needs to share this information can plug and play. So if you have a board meeting, if you have a community group meeting, if you need that information to help you with a grant proposal, you have a very simple PowerPoint presentation that you can plug and play and add your branding to it however you like. But that's what I'm kind of thinking. We want to know how you plan to use this data. We don't want it to sit on a shelf. And then who in your organization do you recommend the COE speak with for this information? Is it your HR person? Are we contacting the right people? Or are we sending, you know, a request for a survey into outer space? So we need that information from you as well. So let's go ahead and do our breakouts, and then we'll come back at 10 to 12. For those note takers, go ahead and open up the WEEA Padlet. Obviously, all of our attendees can open up the Padlet and type in your own notes. We just want to make sure we capture everything. I hope everyone had a great discussion. We have a few minutes if each one of our regional folks want to give like one fine point you want to hit before we leave this meeting today, something that came out of your work groups that you really need us to pay attention to. I'll start with Orange County. John?
Thanks, Tiffany. Well, in our group, we had 2 water agencies in our group, and it really boils down to, for them, we need the HR departments to be more involved with our COE, and there's a disconnect there. It seems like they are so busy all the time that, looking at how they're going to fill jobs this week, it's difficult for them to think 5 years down the road. And that seems to be a common theme that I hear quite often, that, you get 100 applications if you put up one job. And I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's a very low percentage that are even qualified. So they're just kept running all the time to try and fill positions. The other things that came up were there needs to be, again, more awareness of our high school programs. Which ones are feeding into the water programs, and the need for more CTE. We have very few schools that offer water pathways in the region. There might be a handful. There needs to be more awareness there, and more opportunities, not just for water, but for all of our CTE pathways, because these are viable jobs. And I think does that sum it up, Tiffany? Did I miss?
I think it does, yeah. Thank you for that, John. Bruce.
I think you were in our conversation. We had two primary elements. One is and unfortunately, again, we only had two agencies, so it's not real diverse. But one is we need to make sure that there's an alignment between the HR specifications for the jobs and what's really needed. And there seemed to be somewhat of a disconnect on that, and then the other one was again, the HR departments and the specifications, and the fact that the agencies, the larger agencies, because of a number of reasons, probably end up with applications from more qualified folks than maybe some of the smaller agencies. So the pathway for introduction into the industry might be through some of the smaller agencies rather than to try to go to the biggest one just because of competition and I'm sorry, just because of competition within the structure of the program. So and all, it doesn't really inform COE. COE, I think, understands what they need to do, but we do need to understand what the pathways are into this program, into these programs, and have more dialogue across what the capabilities are of the students.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Kurt.
So we were a very pragmatically focused group, and we had Tina there to help us as well. But I think three really interesting pieces emerged. One, we really want and value this data that's going to emerge, and we want to make sure it's projected as well, because the San Diego Water Authority, for example, is, they know what's happening at the moment, but they're trying to anticipate what's going to happen so they don't end up in a situation. So data and data projections that are based on a high quality sample was important to the group. We talked about the need to have articulated pathways that are visible. By visible, I mean brochures and other materials that counselors and parents can see. But we really think we need to start down at 4 or 5, because if you're trying to save and elevate 17, 18, 19-year-olds, you got to make sure they know you're there. So that's a high priority. A very interesting story was told by Chula Vista, which is basically goes to the point of dignifying, not only introducing, but dignifying the trades in the eyes of parents. Michael was telling a story about they brought parents along and they found that they were getting really strong and positive feedback. And so they turned and actually did that intentionally. But we think dignifying the trades via parent education might be pretty darn important. San Diego.
Great, thank you, Kurt. Scott.
Hi, we had pretty fruitful discussions, and I think a number of folks. First off, the easy one is for the recommendations on who to speak with. I think it was unanimous that HR would be good to start with, but also some of the communications folks and the public relations can help move that conversation forward and are important people to ask in that question. I think, the data, question of how you would use the data when the project is complete is, obviously, right, to help, folks understand where, where we're at right now. And, number two, I think, to, help make a argument to, or a, a good case to boards for creating positions and looking ahead at, what those positions will be, getting that critical buy-in from those elected leaders, and overall in the planning process. And then critical pieces of information. I think we were talking about, getting granular with, some of those other, courses and skills, for the digital age that folks will need, such as cybersecurity and GIS. And then also helping inform where the community, where there are gaps, or if there are gaps, if we're making assumptions about gaps, in programs where they exist based on the need. So if we know there's a big area that is going to have a big need, but there isn't a program there, or if there's a program just adjacent to that, that, serves a different area, we'll know, how to, or who to, go to help funnel workers to those programs and developing those pathways.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Michael or Robert?
We had a good discussion. One things that we noted was that the output of this study really is going to have at least 3 audiences, one being students and parents, one being agency leadership, the leaders of our agencies, and the other college administration. And so we have to keep that in mind as we're putting this together. There was also the interest in having demographic information that would serve as baseline data for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in our agencies. And while it's great that we're going to do this statewide for the first time, I think it's going to be really important also to be able to dice and slice the data by region, and that's really important as well. That's it. Great, wonderful.
Hey guys, we did it. Thank you for those share outs. Thank you for a really, really productive meeting today. We were ending right on time, which is fantastic. For everyone who's still left, you're obviously welcome to our next Leadership Roundtable meeting, number 11. We've scheduled that for June 21st, 9 to 12. It's usually a Tuesday. And like I said, you jump in these meetings and you're like, 3 hours, I can't do it. And it goes by so quick, and there's always so much information that we are able to work through together, and just a lively discussion. So mark your calendars, June 21st. If you're on our list today, you're going to get an invitation. And before we close, I always have to give a big shout out to our sponsors: Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Molten-Gale Water District, Water Replenishment District, California Environmental Education Foundation, Western Municipal Water District, Big Picture Learning, and California Community Colleges. We did it. Thank you everybody for your participation and your motivation and just staying active in this work. We're going to continue to do this together until we find the solutions that we need. So thank